Hi, Carol.
Good morning or good afternoon, Adiba.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Immaculate.
Good afternoon.
Hey, everybody.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good to be back, and many people are joining.
Yes.
Good.
Good.
I see Nick is there. I might be particularly referring to him today. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Carlo. How are you?
So just let's wait a few more minutes. Let me pull the list of participants in the other screen so I can have it under control. Okay, so we have 15 participants for now. I would say let's start. And before going into the presentation of what I intend to do today, let me ask all of you if you have had any chance to actually run the code I share, for example, the one in the last session. If you have found any problem in replicating the analysis. I'm particularly curious in understanding how easy or difficult it is for all of you to navigate on the R scripts that we are using in these sessions. Because maybe we give it for granted that replicating these, running R on a computer, it's easy, but may not be the case. So I would like just to, for example, if anyone has still difficulties in running an R script in your computer, can you just point it to me? Like, you know, in this participant list, you can choose the thumb up or thumb down as a sign. So let's try this and let's do this little referendum. So who can run easily an R code? I'm looking at on the other screen, if people raise their hand or people put up their thumb. So Amadou is raising the hand. Now Amadou is, and Oscar and Adiba, thank you. So I'm surprised that Mr. Gary is not raising his thumb up. Filippo, you're with us? Oh yeah, you were putting it here, okay.
Yes, I'm with you.
But why I don't see your thumb? Oh, now I see it.
No, I'm uploading.
You are uploading, but I was, I see it
I know.
appearing on the screen, but not in the list of participants. That's why I'm concerned. Can you try one thing, Filippo? Mute yourself and then raise your thumb. Yeah, weird. In your case, it only...
I did it.
Yeah, I know. But it's strange that in your case, it only appears in the view, in this screen, where I have everyone, but not in the list of participants. So, okay, never mind. So I see there are still a few people that don't raise their thumb up, which means that you may still have some difficulties in running your script. And therefore, maybe we should, and I will ask Filippo for help, provide some basic resources online of people that can look at to get up to speed with R. But I am quite happy to see that most people do have their thumb up. Ibrahima, you have a question?
Yes, good afternoon, colleagues. It's not really a question, it's just to share maybe my experience. I do not have a problem to use the code with the same data set, but I tried to use to do the same thing with another data set. And I imported the data set from Stata. And in this case, I had some issue. I got it several times in an error message regarding the label. And I had a discussion with Dico, and finally we got a solution. So maybe when you are importing from Stata, you may have some problem using the code. Maybe Dico can add something because he helped me to solve the problem. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ibrahima. Dico?
Thank you. I mean, quickly, the error is related to the package Heaven and the function read DTA. They created a new type called labeled colon. Basically, it's a colon with a label, since it's possible in Stata and SPSS. Then when we use the function rm.w, it expects a clean data frame without label. And so when you put labeled colons in rm.w, you can have some error. So there is two ways to fix it. I think with Ibrahim, what we did is to transform all labeled colon into simple colon. So if it's a numeric variable, for example, with labeled, we just remove the label. So we create a function that goes through all column and turns it into just simple data frame. And maybe the other option, if people turn to use it a lot, like SPSS, and maybe it's just to add this option to RMW, but it's too much, I think. What we did, I think, can be helpful for others, just removing the label.
Ibrahim and Dico, thank you very much for raising this point. And I have to confess that just 10 minutes ago, in preparing for this, I had exactly the same problem, which actually happens because of a recent update. So I updated to the latest version of R, which is 4.0.2, and reloaded, of course, the new version of the packages. And then I found the same error, that the label was interfering with the way in which the command rm wait is working. So I had to recur to Filippo and Sara to help me out figuring what's the problem was. And Dico, probably you have pointed it, you have identified it. the solution that Sarah suggested and that I did, it was just to call the data as matrix, and that will let the RM weight function work. So I think this is dealing with data type, data format. It's probably a very common source of difficulties, because, as you correctly say, Dico, people who developed this package to convert Stata, SPSS, Excel, have to sort of keep up the pace with the new version of Stata, new version of SPSS. And so there may be moments in which the current version of the packages in R are not fully aligned. And that may happen also for our own RM weights package. But chances are that in a few months or weeks, once the problem is identified, a new version can be released that would prevent that problem. But in general, this is a price to pay dealing with a software that is being developed while is used to try and compensate for the fact that statistical commercial software for which you have to pay, keep releasing new versions that make the old one a little bit obsolete. So I think it's a useful, it's a legitimate cost to pay in order to wanting to try to continue use R. And what I can suggest now, appreciating that many of you probably have even more competence than I have on R, what we can suggest is that using this mailing list of this group, if anyone finds a problem running their code, they can post it, send an email to this group, and somebody in this group may find a solution and offer it. I think this is one way in which we can make this work even more productive for everyone. So thank you for this reassuring me. I'm very happy to see that R is quickly becoming the preferred software for all serious analysts. And I would like now to start moving to the topic of today's session, which I would try to do. I'm not sure I will be able, as always, to complete it by 3, but I would like to start. And this was actually the demonstrating how to deal with a combined module that integrates the FIES, the Food Insecurity Experience Scale, with the HHS, which is the Household Hunger Scale. So as usually, I will share my R script and I will go over the code with you. First of all, can you confirm that you can see my screen? Thank you, Vero. Is it the font large enough? Can you see it well? Okay, I see. But so let me start. Please feel free to unmute yourself and intervene in case you want to respond, because I'm not sure I will be able to see the chat or the participant list at any moment. So here, and this is why I referred to Nick before, I will be using data collected in South Sudan. I'm just loading my data. And in South Sudan, this is the round 23 of the Food Security and Nutrition Monitoring Survey. There were questions derived from the FIES. This would be question X1 to X8. And then there were also questions that form the so-called household hunger scale. Essentially, the household hunger scale is composed of 6 questions. In this version are coded from G01 to G06, which are the same question that are part of the, let me try and show you another screen here. So this is a web page from the FANTA project, so-called Food and Nutrition Technical Assistance Program, in which back in 2011, they developed the household hunger scale. For those of you who are not familiar with this, the household hunger scale is just a derivation from the household food insecurity access scale. So the household food insecurity access scale had 9 questions. Can you see it on the
Hello,
screen?
I don't see your screen. I see the.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Can you see it now?
Yes, now I see.
Sorry, I was assuming it was already there. So as I said, this is the original document that introduced the household hunger scale. It is a derivation from the household food insecurity access scale. This is the questionnaire of the HFIAS, the Household Food Insecurity Access Scale. And you will recognize that these questions are very similar to FIES questions. However, they do have a reference to the past 4 weeks or 30 days. And some of them are worded in a slightly different way. But the fundamental experiences that this question are investigating are exactly the same that we use in the FIES. There is a worry dimension. There is a variety that is captured in the HFIS by 2 questions rather than 1. You were not able to eat the kinds of food you preferred, or you have to eat a limited variety of food. We sort of combine these 2 questions into 1. And there is a third question that relates to not preferred food, rather than what we call healthy and nutritious food. So the way in which the question is asked here is relating to food that you really did not want to eat. So I think the reason why the researcher at FANTA decided not to use the expressions healthy and nutritious was for fear that people might not relate well to the concept of healthy and nutritious, or may have different concepts. Whereas referring to the respondent preferences or respondent desire might have less problem in terms of for people to understand the question. then eat less or eat smaller meal, skip meals or eat fewer meals, running out of food, going hungry, and going for a whole day without eating. These are the same experiences that we use in the FIES. So essentially what I want to say is that there is only one difference, fundamental difference between this HFIS and the FIS, which is the reference period. But once again, I may have already commented before, even the length of the reference period is not a fundamental aspect of the measurement scale, because with these scales, be it the HFIAS or be it the FIES, what we actually measure is not the frequency of the occurrence, but is the severity of the condition. And using this 30 days reference period or using the 12-month reference period, provided we use it consistently across all the questions, we should obtain a consistent measure of severity. Then, of course, if you only refer to the last 30 days, you may capture a smaller number of people that have experienced a certain condition at that severity level, simply because it's a measure of the recent situation rather than a medium-term situation. Apologies, I need to, okay. Oh, sorry, somebody's taking care of the door that ran. So, just to wrap up, the HFIS and the FIS are, to many extent, equivalent tools to measure the severity of the condition. But then, in the early days when the HFIS was used and was tested in several countries, it was found that the severity level associated with the first 6 questions seemed to be not fully consistent across different countries. Meaning that in different countries, the relative order and the relative distance of the severity of the first 6 questions was found to change from country to country. And at that time, researchers had not developed the procedures for equating different versions of the scales against a same global standard. And therefore, this problem that the severity of the question referring to the more moderate or mild conditions was not constant across countries, was considered to be a problem. For that reason, and this is the reason why the household hunger scale was developed, the last 3 questions, which are questions that proved to be fairly stable across different countries in their relative severity were selected to form a separate scale, which is what is called the household hunger scale. However, having only 3 questions doesn't provide enough ability to discriminate, and therefore the household hunger scale provided, as the HFIES, the possibility of scoring the question not only as yes or no, but also, if the answer is yes, asking whether it was rarely, sometimes, or often. So, in this way, there is an additional dimension of frequency associated with the experience, but because these questions refer to very severe condition, it turns out that severity and frequency can be reduced to a single dimension. In other words, and this is the basis for the possibility of using frequency responses together with just yes or no occurrence response in the same scale, is that once you have reached this level of severity, the only way in which a condition can become worse is if that experience is recurring several times. So, in a way, high frequency means more severity, but this is true only for severe questions. And so in the end, the household hunger score module, which is what you see now on the screen, was developed, and it was proven to be a valid and cross-country comparable measures of severe food insecurity. So now let me go back to the data set. Sorry, I'm having trouble switching from one screen to another. And in the meantime, I see Firas, you raised your hand, you have a question? Firas? Hello? Sorry guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Firas, you raised your hand, but I can't hear you. Okay, well, let's continue, and then maybe Firas can make himself heard. We'll ask the question. So, in this version of the dataset shared by Nicholas and applied in South Sudan, there is exactly the HHS questionnaire. So from G01 to G06, we have the HHS question, and they have the same structure that you saw. If the answer to the yes or no question is no, then the follow-up question is not asked. And therefore, you see that in this version of the dataset has been coded as not available. Whereas, let's find some cases. In case the response to the yes or no question is yes, the follow-up question is asked, and the answer can be 1, 2, or 3, depending on whether it was rarely, sometimes, or often. The same structure is to the pair of question 3 and 4. So only if G03 is 1, there is a number to G04, otherwise is not asked. And the same for the pair of question G5 and G6. So just a quick run of question. Raise your hand or put your thumb down if it is not clear how the HHS questionnaire is coded. Nobody raising their thumb or lowering their thumb, so I think we can continue. So what I do in this script now, I load the data, and from the data I create both the FIES scale, which is just selecting the question from X1 to X8, and the HHS data, which is selecting the column from G01 to G06. Then I need to do a little recoding to make sure that whenever the answer to the FIS question is not yes or no, so it's either 0 or 1, then it must be coded as NA. This I do in this line. And then I also need to recode the HHS data. So here, from line 14, I will show you what is the analysis that we do with the HHS data. So first, as every time the answer to the first question is no, we don't have actually a number for the follow-up question, we need to make sure that we put a number there, because otherwise the data will be dropped in the analysis, and this is not what we want. So line 14, 15, and 16 in this code simply make sure that the follow-up G02, instead of NA, is recoded as 0 whenever the G01 question is answered no. So with these 3 lines, I have just filled a gap so that if we go back now to the data set, we should no longer see, sorry, I need to run it and reload it. here. Now, when G1 is 0, also G2 is 0. And similarly, when G3 is 0, also G4 is 0. And when G5 is 0, also G6 is 0. Meaning that if I said no, it would have been equivalent that I asked only the follow-up question, adding a never case. So in fact, the HHS can be considered as only 3 questions rather than 6. But these 3 questions are coded as 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, depending on whether it was never, rarely, sometimes, or often. So with this trick here now, I have recoded to avoid that the follow-up question were missing. And now I can create a new data frame which has 3 questions, and I'm calling them new question 1, new question 2, and new question 3, to follow the suggestion of the manuals, the HHS manual. Let's go back to the HHS manual. If we go to the section of how the HHS manual needs to be analyzed, there is a section called indicator tabulation. You will see that a new variable is created for each frequency of occurrence called new Q1, new Q2, and new Q3. And if the frequency response is either rarely or sometimes, this new question is coded with a 1. If it's often, it's coded as a 2. So essentially, to score the HHS, each respondent is given a score of 0 if they say no, a score of 1 if they say either yes, rarely, or yes, sometimes, and a score of 2 if they say yes, often. And now, if again I manage to go back to my other screen, this is what I do with the lines from 20 to 25. So if the original data is either 1 or 2, meaning rarely or sometimes, I give the new question a value of 1. If the original question was often, I give the new question a value of 2. And I do this for all 3 questions. Now I see Adiba has a question, say, what about cases where the individual refused to respond to question 1, or the response is, I don't know? Then in that cases, that information, that case is dropped from the analysis. I don't know if that was the question that Adiba intended. But for now, just let me make sure that this is all simple stuff. Then the actual household hunger score is computed by summing the score. And with my code, I simply need to borrow this newly created HHS R23 matrix. Then the classification suggested by the author of the household hunger score is that if the total score is either 0 or 1, the household is classified as having experienced little or no hunger. If the score is either 2 or 3, is classified as having moderate hunger. And if the score is greater than 3, is classified by severe hunger in this household. And therefore, the analysis of the HHS, I need to run all the code, sorry. We start from scratch, because if I keep switching, skipping some lines, here are the results. So in the 23rd round, there were almost 2,800 households with little or no hunger, 4,700 households with moderate hunger, and only 286 households with severe hunger. And similarly, I did the same for in terms of the classes. This means that 36% of the household were with little or no hunger, 61% were with moderate hunger, and only 4% with severe hunger. I wonder, Nicholas, if this overlaps with the analysis that you did, but I think it should. And then let's quickly do the same for the 25th round. And then we can make a comparison of what happened. So comparing the household hunger score in round 23 with the household hunger score in round 25, assuming that these two samples represent the same population, we could conclude that there has been a little improvement from round 23 to round 25, where both the number of moderate and of severe, of households classified as moderate hunger or severe hunger has reduced, whereas the percentage of households with little or no hunger has increased. And I think, Nick, if I remember correctly from our previous correspondence, this is consistent with your own analysis found, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So now I will continue with analysis that I think I showed you already, which is On the same data set, but on the FIES part, we conduct the analysis using the Rush model and all the proper measurement concept by running the Rush model, computing the severity level associated with each item, but also with each row score, and equating the severity level of the different row score across the two applications. And you will see that a comparison of the simple row score obtained from the FIES question is not comparable with the household hunger score. You see that in this data, this is just for round 23. If we just follow the simple manual rule of computing the score, we cannot compare these frequency tables. And in fact, you will notice that the majority of the respondents will have row score 7 in the FIES, whereas some of them, the majority will have row score 0 with the household hunger score. So the problem that I want to address is how we can make these two data sets comparable. Now, this is the same people responding to questions. So is it because they have understood differently the question, or because the two, despite everything I have said, the two tools are not comparable? So the first thing that I want to discuss, to present is, first of all, remember that the question is the household hunger score only refers to the most severe question. Therefore, shouldn't be surprising that there is a large number of row score 0 in the household hunger score that may include cases where the FIES row score is from 0 to 4 or 5. This is because the FIES spans the full range of severity, whereas the household hunger score only focuses on the most severe end of the scale, the one that is represented by conditions that start with running out of food, going hungry, or going for a whole day without eating. So the proper way of looking at this is to consider the household hunger score as an extension of the FIES. It's like with the FIES in a situation like South Sudan, I will have the majority of the respondents, more than 5,000 in this data set, classified as severe food insecurity. But I cannot discriminate among them because I don't have sufficient information to distinguish between those who have said yes to the questions up to going hungry but not eating. So this module that integrates the FIES and the HHS has the objective to be able to extend the range of severity level that is measured by the FIES to be able to provide additional information on how these 5,000 individuals are different. And one immediate consequence of this is that even though in the HHS the expression moderate hunger and severe hunger are used, these are not comparable with the concepts of moderate food insecurity and severe food insecurity that is used, for example, in the context of the SDG monitoring. So I wanted to drive your attention on the fact that speaking of hunger, it's already implying severe food insecurity. And therefore, even the moderate hunger belong to the severe food insecurity class. And if people just focus on the objective, moderate and severe, disregarding the noon, hunger, or food insecurity, they will have lots of confusion. And I think that you have been exchanging some comments in the chat, which was pointing exactly to that point. So let me stop for a moment and ask, is this difference clear? And I don't know if you are raising your hands or your thumb, so nobody is responding.
Yes, it's clear.
Thank you, Veronica. Somebody else?
Yes,
it's clear, Carlo.
Perfect. So I think I will stop now with the presentation, but I will share with you the rest of the code in which, and then next time we will go over it, in which now, how do we resolve this issue? And the way to resolve this issue is to use the household hunger score data as an extension of the FIES. Now let me just sketch the idea. So remember that question number 6, 7, and 8 of the FIES are essentially the same question that is included in the HHS. During the last month, was there a time when your household ran out of food because of a lack of money or other resources? As opposed to, was there ever no food to eat of any kind in your house? So you see, there is a different terminology there, but the concept is the same. Running out of food in the household, having no food in the household. And the same is for, was there a time when you or others were hungry but did not eat. And we have a question here. The second question, sorry. In the past, did you or any household member, sorry, I need to get the 3, went to bed hungry? Oh, yeah, go to sleep at night hungry because there was not enough food. So is more or less the same experience that you ate something but not enough to satisfy so that you're still hungry when you go to bed. And finally, the last question, you went for a whole day without eating at all. So from the point of view of the experience, these are the same questions. So what we can do, we can consider the 3 HHS question as a substitute for the last 3 questions on the FIES. And the first way in which we can integrate the two would be to treat the yes to the HHS question as if it was the yes to the FIES question. So dichotomize yes and everything, and if it's either rarely, sometimes or often is yes, so we can recode the HHS question in a simple dichotomic way and use them instead of the last 3 questions of the FIES. The more and this is the very simple way of integrating the HHS data into the FIES question. The second method, which is a little more complicated, is to also use the frequency of occurrence, so that the last 3 questions are not coded as yes or no, but as coded as yes, sorry, no, rarely, sometimes, and often. And as I probably already anticipated, there is an extension of the Rush model, which is called the partial credit model, that allow to estimate the Rush model when questions are also reflecting an order of severity. So the only assumption that we need to make is that the answers are ordered in terms of increasing severity. And therefore, when we say that rarely is 1, sometimes is 2, and often is 3, we are saying that there is a specific order in which the severity of this response is reflected in the answer. So rarely is less severe than sometimes, and sometimes is less severe than often. If that assumption is correct, then we can treat this graded response in the context of the Rush model. And so next time I will demonstrate how to, using the RM weights software, how can we estimate the Rush model on the extended FIS that embeds the HHS data. As I said, I will probably better share the code before so that you can also give it a try. And then next week we will meet again on the regular Thursday day. We will go over this code. So again, it's 3 o'clock. I will stop here now. thanking you for having attended, and please make sure to send question. The one thing that I am a little bit disappointed is that I don't receive any email or message to this group asking question. And I really would like to see this group to develop as a community of practice of people that all share the common interest in the analyzing FIES and similar data. With that, thank you everyone, and I hope to see everyone again next Thursday. Bye everyone.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.